Hey guys, welcome back to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and welcome back to where we left you last night because Ford is making us talk about this F-150 in stages.
Yep.
And so they're called embargoes, of course. And so we had an embargo that launched last night about all of the specs. So if you're curious about the payload, the 0 to 60, the pricing, the trims, we have all of that in a video yesterday.
Yep. Today,
Jordan, you are one of the very lucky few who got to go and ride in the F-150.
Today is all about the riding impressions. So they took us on 3 separate drives, one for speed, one for towing, and one for off-road.
And where'd you go to do this?
This was all at the Michigan Proving Grounds, so MPG as they call it.
Ooh.
And that is up in just north of Detroit, about an hour north of Detroit.
And what are the Michigan Proving Grounds? Is this a Ford facility?
Yes, and it's this large, like, just spacious. They have woods, they have trails, they have a huge 5-mile paved racetrack.
It's like a bowl, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like long straightaways and then the big curves, and even on the curves you can do 200 miles an hour. So
in a GT, not in an F-150.
Yeah, not an F-150. Unless they're holding out on us.
Maybe they got a spicy F-150.
Yeah, but it's a really cool, and that's where they put all their Ford products through all the tests. So that's where they determine whether it is built Ford tough.
Oh, interesting. So this is the benchmarking facility.
Yep.
Now, I've actually driven this facility, not in real life.
Really?
In a simulator, in a Mustang Mach-E before that was all announced like a year and a half ago.
Nice.
And yeah, I went down to the Ford Performance Center in Charlotte and got to experience the facility a bit. Got myself nauseous, and but you got to go in for the real deal.
Yeah.
So you went and rode in and saw, of course, in person the F-150, and now is the time you can tell us everything.
Yep.
So I guess before we get into how it rides and drives, for those who don't want to watch our specs video, why don't you hit us with the highlights?
Yeah, really quick. It is a all-wheel drive, two dual motors that come on all trims. So there's no rear-wheel drive only. It's just all the same base platform. And they have a base battery, standard range, 230 miles of charge, theoretically. EPA. And then up to 300 miles EPA for the extended range battery. And as far as power, they're saying 563 horsepower, 775 pound-feet of torque.
Huge numbers.
And that is, we know for sure on the extended range battery, possibly the base one. And so it's, yeah, those are big numbers, and it is a big truck. I mean, it's the same size as the F-150. Yeah. It's just heavier, about 1,000 to 1,500 pounds heavier than its internal combustion engine counterpart.
Really? So you're adding 1,500 pounds for the car. Now, there's a really neat feature in this F-150 that I just think is so cool. Well, first off, you have the Mega Power Frunk.
Yep.
Right? That's what it's called, the actual name. Yeah. Which is 400 liters of space, 400 pounds, and 4 power outlets. Yep. See, I remembered all that. You just told me.
And 2 USBs. I don't know why they didn't make it 4, but.
Oh yeah, come on. Everything needs to be 4. But the truck will tell you somehow how it's weighted up. And from what I hear is actually the taillights will even blink as an indication. Yeah,
that's cool. So they'll tell you what the payload is in the Mega Power Frunk or the bed or both together, and that together can be up to 2,000 pounds.
So 2,000 pounds internally in the truck. Yep. But then towing is what?
Towing is up to 10,000 pounds.
That's significant. That's the most towing of any battery electric vehicle well, basically production right now. I think Model X tops it at 5,000 pounds. Yeah. So this is double the current outgoing. Now, not to say, Hummer EV is coming. There's tons of competition in this electric super truck world. Cybertruck's going to be massive. This isn't really going after the electric super truck world, is it? No. This is electrifying just a normal F-150 for normal everyday uses. This isn't saying go jump it at 1,000,000 miles an hour in Moab.
So they're attaching the Lightning name to it, which is interesting again because they already had an F-150 Lightning back in the day, and that was basically a super truck, but very limited functionality. I mean, you got it to blow people's doors off at a stoplight, and that was about it. It had like 1,500 pounds payload maybe, and very little towing. It was small. So this is.
Right, because that was short bed, single cab, short bed, rear wheel drive, big supercharged, what, 5.4 liter V8 back then?
Yes, supercharged V8, and it had about 360 horsepower, 440 pound-feet of torque.
Baby numbers compared to this one.
Yeah, so this is much bigger, much heavier, and still faster. So they feel like qualified to use the Lightning name, partially because of the electric component, but also it is quicker than the original Lightning.
Well, we recognize and realize everyone's going to have a video at the same time as us. But we have one of the very few people who's gotten to actually experience this for us, for all of us.
Yeah.
We sent you over there last week, I guess now, whenever you're watching this, it was whenever. And I really wanted to go, but we were on an electric motorcycle adventure in Montana, and I said, Jordan, you got to go and you got to see what this thing's like. And what was it like? Because, well, actually, to preface this, you flew into Michigan, and you got very nice, thanks for Ford. They provided you an F-150 3.5 liter EcoBoost Limited, Platinum. Platinum.
So that was nice. And
so you got to like a taste of F-150 on the way.
It was great. I got to soak it all in and drive that to the hour and a half from the airport to the facility. So I was very familiar with the F-150 by the time I got there. And it was amazing how much quicker the Lightning was. Even though I know in my head all these facts and features, just feeling it was impressive. What's strange though is you're in such a high seating position that it doesn't feel that fast once you're going 80. So we started with a high-speed loop.
Sure.
So we had 3 different types of driving. So I started with the high speed, and we started in normal mode, and she just...
Yeah, how many different drive modes are there?
4.
Okay, what are they?
Normal, sport, off-road, and tow haul.
Okay, and this adapts the power electronics, the thermal management, the ESP systems, all for these different calibrations.
Yep, so we started in normal mode on this gorgeous...
Which is key up.
Yep, gorgeous blue Lightning, and she just said, all right, hold on, we're gonna go 0 to whatever. We're just gonna launch it. So she did, and it felt to me like 0 to 50, it was very quick. Okay. But I looked over and we were doing 85.
Oh, because you're just perspective. Well, to clarify this, you driving me out of everything.
Yeah, that's true.
You're on the ground.
So mine's much slower than this car, this truck, but still felt a little faster. But it was very quick and very silent. Usually with the F-150s, you associate some sort of noise. They're not all loud V8s or anything like that, but you just expect the engine rumble, a little bit of turbo noise, and it was just wind and tire noise.
So lots of tire noise, I imagine.
Yes.
And then just like with any EV, you just hear outside influences.
Yeah.
Were there squeaks and rattles associated with it? Like
no.
how did it feel put together wise?
Yeah, so these were production prototypes, but they still felt completely solid. And part of that is because they are using effectively the cab and bed from the F-150 they've spent years perfecting.
Yeah, and we have videos on the current brand new generation of F-150 already here on this channel in the hybrid form and others that you can go back and reference, of course.
Check those out, same cab. So this was, very fast, very quiet from the powertrain, but loud from the wheels, which you wouldn't really notice in normal F-150s because you hear the engine.
Sure.
And then we kind of stopped. She showed me the quick braking, which
so
felt
did she just
normal.
do like a full ABS slammer, or what she do? Okay.
Not quite. It was just a very abrupt slowdown.
Okay.
And it felt pretty normal, except maybe a little faster because of that regen braking.
Did you feel like there was a lot of weight that just like got up on the front, or did it brake pretty smoothly?
It braked pretty smoothly. And I think a lot of that is because of the improved front suspension that is built to take all that weight, especially in heavy braking.
Totally different front suspension here on this one versus a factory F-150, but even more notably than the front is the rear.
The rear is now a independent suspension.
Whoa. That's going to freak some F-150 people out.
It's all new.
Let alone they're putting a Lightning name on it. Now it's electric, but the kicker, IRS.
Yeah, first time ever on F-Series is the independent rear suspension.
I like my axle hop when I do burnouts.
Yeah, this will give you a bit more control. So we then went kind of into the banked turn, which was pretty cool.
How fast did you enter that with?
We entered that at about 80.
Oh, damn, so you're moving.
It was weird because we were kind of in the middle of the bank. So I was like kind of uncomfortable with how angled we were, but at the same time we were going so fast and it felt planted enough.
Really? Do you know what the top speed of the truck is?
No, they haven't told us yet.
Okay. It's got to be low 100s.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I don't think a regular F-150 does more than like 120. I don't know what it is, but I've never tested. We drive all media vehicles with respect here.
Yep. So we then stopped and she threw it into the sport mode.
Oh, so how do you switch the modes?
It's just a knob.
The little knob.
Yeah. Quick correction, it's not actually the knob. So on the upper trim levels with that 15.5-inch portrait screen, you actually change the driving modes with a tap on the screen. I was remembering incorrectly the truck I took to the facility from the airport, which had the knob. So the lower trims, they haven't actually clarified yet, but as far as I can tell, they may still have the knob because they have the standard screen from the other F-150s, the smaller, quote-unquote, smaller 12-inch screen. And there is a new button on the screen which will enable one pedal driving, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, so similar to Mustang Mach-E, and it'll bring you all the way down to a stop and do brake hold.
Yep.
Very important feature for any EV to have.
I love that, yeah. So we put it into sport mode, which basically readjusts the accelerator pedal mapping. So it's just a bit more oomph at first.
Yeah, but when you hit wide open in any mode, it's going to give you full beans.
Yeah. So it doesn't really, she said it didn't really adjust the 0 to 60 time. It
that
just
makes sense.
Made you feel more engaged.
It just means that a little bit more pedal pressure makes it jump up to speed quicker.
And it also tightens the electronic steering.
Right. Did it have the variable ratio steering that a lot of F-150s have?
I didn't notice that.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's a pretty subtle thing. I'm sure they put it in there, though.
Yeah, probably. So we put it in sport mode, accelerate again, about the same, but a little bit more intense feeling on the acceleration, a little bit more of the head snap at the very beginning. But
it leaped a little quicker.
It leaped, but then it does roll off kind of as you get higher speeds.
So that's interesting. So one of the things I asked you to look forward to, because this is one of, I mean, you're just working with us now to start, but one of the things I said, with an EV, when you're riding along, you're not driving, you don't get an impression of everything. They're not going to tell you all the details.
Yeah.
It's kind of this like pull and push type thing to learn more. But one thing you can do when you evaluate an electric vehicle from the passenger seat, as long as you know if the rider's at wide open throttle, you can get a sense for how hard they're pushing their drivetrain. You can say, okay, does it fade the power in? Like some EVs, like a Nissan Leaf, doesn't reach maximum power till 35 miles per hour. So there's software limiting the launch.
Yeah.
From what you've mentioned to me, it sounds like they're giving you everything at 0.
Yeah.
It's just gonna, launch really hard and then it dies off.
Especially in sport mode.
Especially in sport mode, yeah, and that makes sense. It's the same with P100D, it's the same with Taycan Turbo S, which is you're just given every last drop of electron, but as pack voltage gets brought down, your current request stays the same, therefore you have total less power available, and also you have more factors against you. You have wind, you have road resistance, and so you're going to get the most level of just insane acceleration off that hit.
Yep.
But interestingly, when pack voltage is high and you're just cruising and you go for a pass, were you able to experience any like 60 to 90 acceleration bursts?
Yeah, so that was the next thing she did, was showing me the basically passing on a highway. I guess a low speed highway kind of. We were doing 55 or 60.
So like a back road and you're just gonna like zip around the guy.
And so she said, all right, imagine someone's in front of us, and we zipped around it. That was impressive. Like that impressed me maybe more than the 0 to 60 launch.
Oh, really?
Because it did have a lot of oomph. Now that definitely rolled off when we got past like 80.
Yeah.
So if you're on a highway in Texas where the speed limit is 80 or 85, you won't have quite the passing power you would expect on lower speeds.
Interestingly.
Still probably more than the standard F-150.
So you think like if you, let's just say like a 70 to 90 mile per hour pull, what do you think is going to win, this or the EcoBoost?
Probably still this.
Really? Okay, so when you're saying like 85 mile an hour speed limit, it's not like it's slow.
Yeah, it's not slow.
Just not as fast as it was at 10.
Not nearly as noticeable as the lower speeds.
Makes sense, sense, but still plenty fine for any public road.
Yeah, and when she did the pass maneuver, it was a pretty significant swerve, and that's where I noticed the suspension.
Those test drivers shred, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Just go full throttle because they're just used to living on a track. It's like, we have a facility in North Carolina that we use to evaluate cars, and every time I come off of a week of testing on track and I'm like driving on the road, I'm like, oh, I'm just drifting around a corner. I should probably not do this. You just become so numb to speed.
Yeah, but when she did that, I noticed the suspension really was holding its own. I mean,
really?
It's a heavy truck. In my head, I knew this
what's it weigh?
6,500 pounds.
Oh, damn.
So over 3 tons. And the suspension, there is body roll. You can't get around that. It's a tall vehicle.
Of course.
But the low center of gravity with the battery, the almost 50-50 weight distribution, not quite. I think it's a little front heavy.
Yeah, sure.
But not near as much as a normal F-150.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they were able to really smooth out the weight here.
Yeah.
So your handling dynamics aren't just like the front's doing everything.
Yeah.
You can actually have the rear help a bit.
It felt planted.
Really?
So that was impressive.
That is cool. That's neat. So high speed sounds like it's going to be a great cruiser down the highway.
Yep.
You're going to have plenty of acceleration, plenty of passing power, of course. And, certainly it's not going to be an issue just to cruise down the highway at 85, 90 miles an hour, which is the speeds, honestly, we do around here in northern Colorado. We got wide open highways and 80 plus mile an hour speed limits. You just rip.
So I'm curious to see how, when we do our range test, I want to know how it does at high speeds, because it's really not the most aerodynamic looking EV.
Interesting. So I think since this is such an important vehicle, we should test this at a a 50 mile per hour, or 90 kilometer per hour range test loop style, a 70, and maybe even an 80 or 85.
Yeah.
You know, typically we just do 70 mile per hour range tests, and we do these a lot on our sister site, Inside EVs. But I think for a vehicle that's important as this, we should do at least efficiency tests at different speed ranges and with different types of trailers. So talk about that too, because they actually hooked a trailer up to one, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
What kind of trailer? How was it arranged?
It was just kind of a normal white kind of box trailer, not very big. It looked fairly appropriate for this truck.
Okay, neat. So like just a regular utility trailer?
Yeah, regular trailer, just very boxy.
Single or dual axle?
I think it was, let's see, I have a picture here.
Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, and so was this
Dual
the same
axle.
truck? Dual axle, okay.
So same effective truck. It was a different physical truck.
Okay.
These are all
so
theoretically...
it wasn't the blue one?
No. This was another one that actually still had camo on it.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. And the interior was all camouflage too. They wouldn't let us take any photos because they're still working out the interior kinks.
Oh, okay.
But the ones that weren't camouflaged, the interior just had normal F-150, everything, even the thing that flips over to be like your desk.
Oh, I love that. So same shifter that folds down. We've done TikToks on this. Every F-150 TikTok, we've done like 3 different ones on the center console, just goes viral.
Everyone loves it, and so they knew that, so they kept it.
So it can still do the nap thing where the seat goes flat back.
Seats go full back.
Man, it has got to be the best cab in the business. Seriously, we've driven the Silverado, F-150, Ram, Tundra. What's the Nissan one again? Titan. We've driven all of them.
Yeah.
I love the F-150 interior. It's just a great place to be, especially with the top spec ones.
Yeah.
You know, we'll be pushing 90 grand when you max this thing out, but man, is that a place to spend time.
Yeah, the big difference was the top trims get that Mustang Mach-E style screen. So all these prototypes had that. So we get in this rig, the trailer's got 6,000 pounds in it.
So not quite maxed out, because 10,000 is
10,000's max. So this was a nice, comfortable, they didn't want to break the truck in front of us, so.
Sure, that makes sense.
They put 6,000 pounds in the back.
That's still not, you know, the 6,000 pounds is a car and a trailer.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, so it was, you know, a solid towing rig. And he, you know, got on the screen, and the big screen is a lot of real estate, so he didn't have to go deep into the settings to find tow haul mode.
Okay.
Switched it with the dial, and then threw on the one pedal driving with the tow haul.
Nice.
Which is cool. And we just went. He gunned it.
Really? And with the trailer?
With the trailer, which you probably wouldn't want to do if your contents are valuable. But
I would still do that.
He proved that you can do that.
So yeah, what did the truck? How did it respond with all that weight? What was it like off the line?
It felt like, I mean, similar to the other one, just a little slower, but still, just knowing that there was a trailer back there, surprising. I kept having to look in the mirror to see if the trailer was truly there, because it felt like a normal internal combustion engine F-150 going off the line.
Okay, so you'd say the trailer brings it down to like normal F-150
brings it down to normality, yeah.
And to say, I mean, you drove up there in like one of the top spec F-150s. It wasn't the Raptor motor, but it's the 3.5 non-high output EcoBoost. They still shred.
Yeah, they do. They're fun. You can set the turbo gauge on your dash.
I love that. Just max it out.
Yeah.
So all the boost.
We just went, and then he did like a quick brake, and that was where I noticed the trailer a bit more. It's just braking, which anytime you're towing.
Braking in a straight line?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That always freaks me out with the trailer.
It does. But he showed me that, and it, you know, talked about kind of the regen helping with the braking. He didn't have to hit the brakes quite as hard.
Right, so I assume, you know, you're going to be able, not only are you going to burn a ton of energy when towing, and in our previous video I was a little bit pessimistic about towing with EVs, and I still am. I don't see this working as a viable solution. I see this as, let me go take the boat and put it in the water 30 miles away in the lake and come home. That's not what I'm saying. I think long distance towing is tough for this, and that's okay, because I still, like I mentioned last video, repeating myself a bit, I think there's enough use cases where they can sell every single F-150 battery electric. It's just the oil riggers in Texas and Wyoming aren't going to love this thing, because they got to do 400 miles in a day with a trailer. Yeah. It's not meant for that. Yeah. But the capability while towing, at least for shorter distances, what was that like? Just, it sounds amazing. Acceleration. Really the braking was all regen? Yeah. And then they blends in friction brakes? Yeah.
And then, so we next went to a 25% incline.
Oh, that's pretty steep.
That was steep. I was looking at it, and I was, you know, you just start expecting the transmission to downshift and super high revs, and you feel like your truck's about to fall apart.
You on the way down? Or on the way up?
On the way
up,
where
it's just like
you're just staying like the first couple of gears. You're not downshifting at all. And so it didn't have that. It just went up the hill just like we did when we were static.
Really?
That was like the most impressive part.
Interesting.
And then the tow haul mode feature on normal internal combustion engine trucks, when you're going downhill, it'll try to keep your same speed without you having to use the brake too much.
Right, so it just drops the gears and brings the revs up and uses engine braking, or in the Super Duty trucks, exhaust braking, of course.
So this will do that same thing, but there's no transmission to speak of, so it just keeps the regenerative braking on maximum. It's trying to get as much power back as it can.
Yeah, of course.
And then plus any other brakes that it needs to apply with the friction braking. So we went down a 13% incline.
And Regen held it just fine?
Yeah, Regen held it, and it didn't have the annoying engine noise.
Yeah, so there's not many roads that are more than like 12 or 13% grade. Maybe some mountain passes, but not much. That's steep.
Yeah, so this proved it could do it. They had another one that was 40%, but he wouldn't do it, so.
So don't go on any 1 over 1. Well, 45-degree slopes 100% grade, right? 1 up, 1 over. So yeah, still 20% is pretty good. That's neat. And what did the drivetrain feel like? Did you hear the fans kick on? Was it trying to cool itself down, or did it just not care?
It didn't care. Granted, the towing was probably the shortest ride they took us on of the three. Yeah. So I didn't really know. I couldn't tell if it was going to start overheating.
Yeah, I would be really curious to do some thermal management stuff, because I mentioned in the previous video, Mustang Mach-E is fine for daily driving. Yeah. But when we take it on our performance loop, as we test every car, it actually overheated. Yeah. Under just normal quick back road blasting, not even racetrack stuff. Now the GT Mustang, they claim, has higher cooling. I assume the F-150 is going to be prepped for towing, but I know you'll be able to hit a limit. I just wonder, in the real world, are you going to be able to do it? With like TFL Super Ike test, are they going to hit the thermal management limit with that? We'll have to see.
That's our job. Yeah. Find the limits.
Find the limits.
So next, we found the limits on off-roading.
Oh, that sounds fun.
That was probably my favorite one of all these. He just took us on a gravel road to start and just gunned it.
So different F-150 again.
Different F-150.
That has just been shredded off-road its whole life.
Yep.
And what sort of protection, suspension, like what's the off-road cred? Obviously, every F-150 is the same configuration, 4-door, short bed, 4-wheel drive, but does it have any off-roading qualifications? Like, how do they protect the drivetrain and battery?
So it has skid plates all across the bottom. So
really?
Basically, what the Lightning did was have the FX4 package as standard. And that is the skid plates. It comes with all-terrain tires, the 4-wheel drive all the time. So that was pretty cool and very capable. And then we put it in off-road mode, which basically affects the traction control, and it actually throttles down your torque a bit, because you don't want to just spin out on gravel all the time.
Well, some people
do. So you might want to try a sport mode on gravel.
Sure, I think that's what I'd do. ESC off, sport mode on, full sideways.
So we did get a bit sideways on the gravel. He was just gunning. It was a kind of a gentle curve, and he was very controlled. I could tell he just drives this course all the time.
Yeah, it's just in his sleep. I know those guys, some of those pro drivers. We've recently visited the Goodyear testing facility. You can go back in our videos. Those guys just eyes closed, right on the ragged edge. You gotta love that. Yeah. That sort of level of driving capability is very cool.
It's cool. And we did a lot of, we kind of slowed down. There was a lot of deep ruts, which I was always impressed with it not bottoming out in some of these ruts. So I guess it has good ground clearance.
Did you bottom it out at all?
We did, yeah. So there was a few points where you kind of go up and over.
Okay.
And the truck was just too long.
Yeah, breakover angle wasn't great.
Yeah, so you just kind of...
And then you just skate on the battery.
Yeah, we just skated on it. It was
and
great.
They didn't care.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, the skid plates are strong. The shell around the battery, it's like an exoskeleton made of steel.
Nice.
So it's very protected. And he felt fully confident to just gun it over these hills.
Cool.
So that was pretty cool. The suspension felt fine. I mean, if anything, the independent rear suspension probably helps in some off-road cases too. But it felt really solid off-road, and we even went up a kind of a steep incline again, much better without a trailer, and it didn't lose traction much, and when it did, it kind of sent power to the wheels it needed to.
Oh, neat. So it can do a little bit of e-diff stuff.
Yeah, it's got an electronic differential that can do full lock. So,
oh, really? So it just cranks down on the brake, or is it actually locking the diff?
It's the same diff that they use in the FX4 package.
Well, my guess is then it's actually a mechanical diff, controlled electronically, of course, rather than using physical brakes to lock, or torque vectoring in the case with an electric motor. That's kind of neat, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's the first EV, that production EV on sale, that will have a truly mechanical locking differential.
Yeah.
And probably just in the rear is my guess.
It was a lot of fun, and just having all that torque ready at any point was more fun off-road than even on-road, I think.
Really?
Just being able to, and you can power slide it and have fun and have full faith, and then when you take your foot off the gas or the accelerator, the regen kicks in. And so you're not having to jump back and forth between brake and accelerator.
A lot of one pedal control.
Yeah. So even though we didn't have one pedal driving on this case, it was kind of partially one pedal.
Interesting.
And then we get to the top of this hill and he just stops and the windows are down and we just hear birds. It was crazy. He's like, yeah, this is the way to go off-road on trails in nature, is just kind of take in the nature, and all you hear is like crunching of gravel and stones and mud. You don't hear the engine as much.
Sure, I totally agree, and I get that. Look, we've done a lot of electric adventures recently, taking electric motorcycles around, taking electric, we had a lifted Model Y that we drove off-road. It's cool.
Yeah.
And I think this is a cool truck. What do you think? Do you think they're going to sell a ton of them? Do you think there's going to be huge demand, or is it a sort of a flop? Because it's not like a on paper super truck. It's not 1,000 horsepower. Yeah. It's not 1,000,000 miles of range like a Cybertruck. It doesn't really compete with the on paper stats. So where's its place in this market?
I think it will sell very well. And I think part of that is because they went somewhat on the conservative route and made it an F-150 first. So it looks the part. It does all the things you would expect an F-150, if not better. It has all the features you're familiar with, like Pro Power on board. But additional things too, like the frunk, which is, exterior locking storage.
Not just the frunk.
The mega power frunk. Yeah, which is external locking storage.
I'm going to say that every time I open it. Let me just open the mega power frunk.
Yeah, so it's got loads of features over the normal F-150. But if you had a normal F-150, all your accessories and tools can just fit, especially if you had, something made for the bed or the cab, you can just convert that over to this. So I think it will sell really well, and they have such a huge market share. Even if a very small percentage sell, it's still going to be a lot of EVs on the road.
Cool. Well, really huge thanks for you going over to experience this truck for us. You'll be seeing Jordan in plenty more videos. Yep. You've already been in a whole bunch, so thank you for working with us here. We appreciate it.
It's a lot of fun.
And you also have a written review as well. That'll be on outofspecstudios.com and InsideEVs.com.
Yep.
You can see it there. So thanks very much, and appreciate y'all watching. Can't wait to go drive this thing, because we only got to ride in it.
Yeah.
Now I just want to drive it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to do all of our testing. It's going to be a long week when we have this thing.
Yeah.
Man, we're not going to sleep. This truck's got to do towing tests, range tests, performance driving tests, thermal management tests, Pro Power tests.
Scale accuracy.
See you on the next one. Bye-bye.